The way like graduation will work, there'll be 3 rounds. There will be a formal session followed by a live Q&A, where you, the audience, can ask questions to the panelists. If you don't feel too comfortable asking questions out loud, there are note cards where you can write down your questions. Either way, if you ask a question, it can be entered into a raffle and a Starbucks gift card. Next, I'd like to thank the sponsors of Life After Graduation, Life Education, Career Development, the Office of Inclusion and Diversity, and the Center for Racial Justice and Excellence. Next, I'd like to introduce Dr. Paul Bauer to say a few words about the panelists.
Thank you. When I saw the people that were going to be here for this night's event, I was like, well, I got to be there. These are 3 of my favorite former students, Cassandra, Shanice, and Brittany. Cassandra survived my econometrics class and did very well. Brittany survived me advising her on her senior project and did very well, and presented not just at the Student Activity Research Day, but also the SUNY University. Same. Not to leave out Shanice, because Shanice performed yeoman service on 2 occasions. In my principal's class, everybody should know that every classroom that has a whiteboard also has whiteboard markers, but the secret is they don't work. Always bring your own. And one day I showed up to class and didn't have mine, but Shanice was there willing to lend me some. And then when I had a computer problem 2 or 3 years later, I was surprised, oh, you're working in the computer support, great. And she didn't chastise me too much for not having rebooted my machine since the Eisenhower administration. So, we're lucky tonight to have 3 hardworking students, and I'm looking forward to hearing what they're up to and what they have to say about our program.
All right, now I'd like the panelists to introduce themselves, say a few words.
I think I'm up first. Can you guys?
Yeah.
Okay. So for guys, much for just caring about what we have to say. I'm Cassandra Alexandri. I graduated onto 2018. Currently, I work as an attorney. I went straight through international and economics to law school, and graduated from law school back in 21. And right now I'm working at a SEC registered investment advisor as legal counsel.
Okay. I'm Shanice Thomas. Can everybody hear me? Okay, yeah. So I graduated Oneonta in spring of 2021. I majored in business economics and also had a concentration in marketing and finance. After that, I went on to get my MBA in finance at Binghamton University. I now work at TD Securities. I've been working at TD Securities for 2 years as a credit analyst, specializing in the asset-backed securities side, structured finance. I also work alongside my dad with his real estate company, doing flipping houses and also finding investors in order to expand in the real estate field. And if anybody wants to connect with me after that, Dr. Kitasu can definitely present my information. I'm happy to talk to anyone. So just reach out if you need that. I'm on LinkedIn at any part of the day.
Hey y'all, I'm Brittany. I graduated from Oneonta in December 2018. I double majored in history and economics. I took a few years off before going to law school. I attended Vanderbilt University Law School. I'm a second year or 2L. So this upcoming summer, I'll be working at a firm, Clifford Chance, where I'll be in your transactional corporate law program. And I'm very excited to be back. So, bye.
You guys, so we'll begin with the first question for Cassandra. How do you find and work with recruiters during the job search process?
I got a message from Laura that you guys are having some issues hearing me.
Yeah, but I just heard you real clear that time.
Oh, okay, perfect. No, so for recruiters, that is something I can extensively on. I think if you have, if you're interested in the financial sector, but this applies to all sectors, if you have zero, if you don't really know an in, recruiters are a great way to get into the financial sector or just land a job. And if you don't know already how that process works with a recruiter, they're free. LinkedIn is their stomping ground. So it would be nice to reach out to one, send a resume, and they have a network of connections because it's what they do. It's no cost to you. And whatever company that you end up working with, recruited you for, they're paying costs. So I think it's just something that's really important to look into and about that I talk about. I don't want to, kind of deter from the flow of conversation today. So if you want to talk to me about any recruiters or any recruiters in my network, I am more than happy to connect you guys with them.
Thank you, Cassandra. And we heard most of it, but it was still going in and out loud. And the issue is you're connected to your iPhone. You try your computer or something?
Sure.
Yeah, thank you, Cassandra, but we will move on. Okay, this is for Shani. What are some steps you should take to make you the most attractive candidate throughout the job searching process?
I'm not sure if anybody else is hearing this. I'm hearing an echo in the back and I'm not fully able to hear the question or like anything anyone's saying, except from the people who are virtual. So let me know if that's on my end so I can fix that or if it's something that other people are experiencing.
Okay, I'll repeat it. Okay, what
So
are some steps you should take to make you the most attractive candidate throughout the job searching process?
yes, so I think a lot of you have heard it going forward. And I think one important thing is to get involved. One, get into those extracurriculars, get into different clubs, leadership. I've had the pleasure to work on the interviewing team for my firm because they basically just wanted to make sure that everybody was able to work with each other. So one thing I noticed is they wanted to make sure that you could do things outside of academics. And that doesn't only expand on your resume, but it gives you a chance to learn different communication styles. You are going to meet different people and learn how to work with them. And especially when you're moving into the professional world, you're definitely going to have to work with a lot of different personalities, and you need to be able to know how to handle that on a day-to-day basis. So I would say get involved, add all of those to your resume, let them know that you can do things outside of just reading a book and studying and getting an A. The next thing I think in this digital world, I don't know how every firm does it, but I know a lot of the firms that I've spoken to, friends that I've had, they run your resume through a resume scan to begin with. So I would say to start off, run your resume through a resume scan and put in the job description that you're looking for and see where you fall in that. Because the whole goal is to get your foot in, past the first door. You're not able to show your personality if you can't get past the first door. So I say run that through it, make sure the job that you most desire, you're putting in that description and add those keywords into your resume. That way, whenever they run it through it or when you're presenting that to an employer, they're able to see that you do match the job description of what they are looking for. In terms of once you get past the front door and you're in the interviewing stage, one thing I would say, make sure you're asking the tough questions. Present that to them. I don't know how many of you are entering into the finance world. I would say one thing is things are changing since the pandemic happened. Ask questions on how things change. Let them know that you are interested on their culture or how they were able to implement different technological changes, considering that so much has changed since 2020. And that just allows them to see that you are trying to adapt and learn on how things are moving forward. So that's one thing I would recommend. Make sure you're researching the company. The worst thing that can happen is for them to ask you like what you know about the company and you aren't able to expand on that. Research the job role as well. Sometimes we're applying to jobs that we have no clue. That happened to me. I fell into mine. I had no idea what it was, but I think research, at least have the basic knowledge of what it is so you can actually explain to them and expand on it, that you're not fully aware of everything, but you're willing to learn. So sometimes when you're interviewing as well, we tend to forget our personality because we're so nervous, or so make sure you're putting a focus on that, because likability is very big when you're doing these interviews. A lot of things is if you're working in a team, people want to make sure that they're able to work with you and they feel comfortable working with you. So ensure that your personality is coming through that as well. So I think those are the biggest things that I can point out at this moment on what to make you a most attractive candidate during the job search process. And if you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you for those tips, Shanice. The next question is for Brittany. What is your best advice for professionalism in marketing yourself in your career?
So this is my own take on professionalism, is just oddly enough being kind, non-opportunistic, and genuine. Being in law school, you'll meet a lot of interesting people who just either solicit or ask for your help or getting in touch with networking and then completely ghost you once they find the job or once they get the person that they wanted to like reach out to. And that's just not the way to do it. Like if someone's helping you or someone, if you have a mentor, if someone's like giving you assistance, like just be kind about it. Follow up with them, let them know you got the job, or let them know you have an interview or whatnot. I think also with professionalism and marketing yourself is to find mentors that a variety of reasons, there are different goals or interests and inspiring stories, because it doesn't matter like if they're like the same person, you want different people in your team. Different people will give you different advice, different perspectives, different paths for you to choose from, not just pigeonholing yourself into one thing. And don't be afraid to seek out mentorships that are different, like people who are different from you in whatever difference that you think, because again, you just never know what they might offer you. And then also like do mentorships, do coffee chats, information sessions. So if anyone's interested in like grad school programs, definitely join like professional groups in like grad school. So like for instance, in Nashville, we have like the National Bar Association, and like students can join that and like they can do the networking events and get mentors from that. So like wherever field entering, try to join like professional group or committee, and that's how you also meet good people for your team. So yeah.
Thank you very much, Brittany. The next person is Cassandra. What should you look for when reviewing an employment contract?
I'm hoping that the volume, there's a major echo. I'm just gonna go off of my computer, just seem to be working with the Zoom. Hopefully you guys can all hear me. I really wanted to address the question because that every single you, if you haven't already. And I want to stress and preface my response to this with, I understand that there's a lack of negotiation power. If you're seeking out a job, it's not real, you're not really going to necessarily say no if, things aren't looking distressful in that agreement. But one thing I can emphasize is please read it. please read any agreement that comes across your table. First thing that I would know to look at is there anything in concern? A non-compete provision in any employment agreement really is trying to say that you're a skilled worker at you have certain knowledge concerning this company, and after you can't work for an amount of time, and usually 3 to 6 months or a year sometimes based on that provision after leaving. So you might say, I'm going to leave X company and try to join Y, but that agreement says that you can't, and that employer will come after you for it. So that's something to look out for. I think late last year, Governor Hochul Governor Hochul vetoed a bill that would basically eliminate non-competes in New York. They've been completely eliminated in California. But yeah, something to keep an eye on. And then the next thing I'd say to focus on is anything related to a bonus. If you're working in the financial sector, it's very likely that a large portion of your income is going to pay. If there's a target bonus in there, you'd want to know that. If it's a bonus that's solely in the discretion of your employer, you'd also want to know. Also, the third point that I think you should definitely consider and make sure that you're aware whether that's in your agreement or not is whether if a conflict arises, whether it leads you to arbitration, forced arbitration, or whether you can actually litigate, meaning court. If there's an arbitration provision in there, it is not in your favor. It is in your employer's favor. So just have that background. And again, I can't emphasize this enough, just read it. Read it before signing. And that's all I have for now. If you guys have any questions on employment agreements, let me know.
Thank you, Cassandra. The audio was a little in and out, but we did get most of it. Be sure to read it. And the next question is for Shanice. And what skills do you think are most valuable when transitioning into the professional world?
Yeah, so there's so many that you could definitely like expand on, but I'm just gonna touch on 3. I would say the first one is communication skills. I think the hardest part of my job, not including the aspect of going up the learning curve, the softer skills was the instance I have 6 different people that I report to. All of them work differently, all of them communicate differently, and you're gonna have to constantly change those around to deal with whoever you're talking to. So I think one, definitely expand on those communication skills, find different organizations to join, expand on those. Very important. And eventually it will, even if you feel like it's not as important, eventually over time, you'll see that the results do materialize from how well you communicate there. Secondly, I would say humility, especially at the stage where you guys are at, where haven't gone out into the professional world exactly, you need to be able to show them that you're willing to learn. Don't be afraid to ask questions. In that sense, when you're just starting, there's literally no dumb questions. Everything is, and you need to be open and let them know where you are with it. If you feel like you made a mistake, be open with that. Ask questions on the instance of a mistake. Just be open and honest and transparent and be willing to learn. And I think that's something you definitely need to show in any of your interviews that you do. And not only show it, but actually do mean it, that you want to learn and grow from there. Because no company does everything the same way. Every company will do things a bit differently. So you're going to always be starting at the bottom of the learning curve, whatever company you start at. So make sure you're actually looking to learn and grow from whatever you're learning. The third thing I would say is those technological skills. We are in a digital world, so make sure you're taking those advanced Excel classes, Microsoft, PowerPoint. It does go a long way, especially if you're working in finance. Excel is a very big thing that I use on a daily. I do everything in Excel. And over time, when you're taking over so many different tasks, you need to be able to be on the fly and moving as fast as you can and having just basic skills on Excel over time, it won't work because then you're slowing down the pace of like the progress of any projects that you're working on. So I would say take some time out. If you have to do it on the side and you have to pay for it on your own, if they don't offer it, I would say take your personal time and actually try to expand on those. So those are things that I think currently that you should be focusing on before you go out in the professional field, which I think are things that you probably are working on now. So that is my take on it.
Shanice, for that. And can you increase your mic volume so we can hear you a little louder?
Can you repeat that?
No. Can you increase your mic volume so we can hear you a little louder?
Oh, you can't hear me? I can barely hear you.
Well, we can hear you a little bit. It's just real low.
I can try to fix it and see if it works.
Yeah, we can. We'll just move on to the next question. And hopefully by the next time she's have the audio roll. Okay, Brittany, how do law and business intersect with each other? And have you still used economics to some extent?
Yeah, so in law school, we take a lot of business law-ish classes. So last semester, I took corporations. So we learned about M&As, agency law, insider trading, et cetera. And I'm currently now learning securities regulations. So learning about IPOs, underwriters. I can't remember my econ finance classes like that at Oneonta, but we learn in law school, we learn what each of it means, but not only just like the actual like definitions and lingo, but the case law behind it. I felt like in undergrad, I don't remember reading case law. So we also learn from like the finance terms from a lawyer's perspective. How do we protect our clients from certain risks, legal risk? How do we file to the SEC and how do we file like a case to Delaware Chancery Court? So stuff like that is a little bit different than regular like business, but still intersects with each other. So for using my econ degree, I can't say that I have recently, but I will, like I said, mentioned before, I will be working in the transactional group at my firm this summer. So I'll be engaging in like different sectors of like corporate law. So that's M&A, capital markets, investment funds, and maybe I'll remember some stuff I learned from undergrad, but a lot of the things is from a law perspective. But it's still a good like intersection.
Thank you, Brittany. Cassandra, tell us about your preparation for the LSAT and law school application process. And of course, Brittany, you are welcome to provide your input as well.
I'm hoping if I put that helps. So I actually would just like to bounce off of Brittany's last question just real quick. Brittany, I completely disagree with you. So most of the stuff that you listed out that you're currently doing, I'm kind of in practice with that now. That's kind of my day-to-day. I handle insider trading, MNPI, material non-public information. I work for a credit strategy investment fund. And I think it's really difficult to separate out economics from everything. And I think that it's in the nuances. Even in law school, even when you're taking business law, it really is in the nuances. So yeah, I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that, Brittany. We'll catch up for lunch sometime. And then in terms of my preparation for the LSAT and for law school, for the LSAT, I'm not going to pretend that I remember a lot of that. For my first semester of my senior year at Oneonta, I already knew that I was going to law school from a very young age. I come from a very education-focused immigrant family. I'm the first generation everything. And my parents pretty much laid it out in front of me. Like, you have four choices: doctor, engineer, lawyer, or failure. Choose one. One was too bloody, the other one had too much math, and failure wasn't an option. So I went with lawyer. Um, but so I already knew going into college that law school was the path that I was going to take. In terms of studying for the LSAT, if any of you guys are in that process, I did self-study, but there are options for you to take courses. I think many of you will probably know Kaplan, but there are a bunch of other organizations that have courses, will guide you through the process, give you practice questions, exam prep, all of that. In terms of my law school applications, though, Dr. Shanahan, who was in the accounting division at Oneonta, but he also taught business law. I'm not sure if yeah, he's there. Okay, I see someone shaking their head, nodding their head. I really found it beneficial after taking his business law class and his commercial law class and he's an attorney, to just talk through the process with him. He helped me with my essays, and just was more than willing to answer any of the questions that I had. And then I also had people that I interned for that were attorneys. And it was really great to kind of rely on my network for that, whether it was a recommendation letter, whether it was, hey, can you please just read this paragraph of my application essay? I can't emphasize how much my network was able to help me, and how important it is to build that for yourself. So I hope that helped. And if you guys are going through that process, thinking about it, please do feel free to reach out.
Thank you. Brittany,
I'll
you have-
jump in. Oh, sorry. I was like, I could jump in on the LSAT as well and the law school application process. So for the LSAT, before I went to law school, I took off 3.5 years. And the LSAT was like a huge beast I had to overcome. It took me quite some time to figure it out. And then once I figured it out, I actually ended up loving the LSAT. They just recently got rid of logic games, and that was like my favorite section. But I think the LSAT's hard, but it's learnable exam once you figure out its patterns and kinks. In my opinion, there's patterns and kinks. I do think people should commit as much time as they can for it, because it determines where you end up in law school, how much scholarship you may get. And then for the law school application process, I did also ask like everyone I knew, either in law school or a lawyer, my family, my friends, to review my papers, my essays, so my personal statement, my why X law school statements, any optional essays I had to do, and really commit to it, because yeah, it's a numbers game, but it's also like law school admissions counselors look at like personality, and they see like your interests and why you want to go to law school. So I try to make a really compelling story. And I guess whether law school or grad school, your personal statement, how you write and how you show yourself to these strangers who may not know you, besides like your GPA and your LSAT score, how do you stand out? So that can be like really commit to writing a really killer personal statement.
Perfect. Thank you. Shanice, what influenced you to pursue your MBA right after graduation?
I'm not sure if you're able to hear me now. I did try to disconnect and reconnect.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna give you a very honest and transparent answer. When I decided to go to grad school, I had no idea why. I thought about it, and I had a discussion with my mentor, which one is Dr. Durkin. Love her. I sat and I spoke to her every Sunday at 3 o'clock, and we would talk on the phone for hours. And we decided we would discuss all the different things that could go wrong or things that could go right. And I think the main idea for me was I didn't have that much going on at the moment. So one thing was always in the back of my mind is at this point in time, I didn't have a job. I have no kids, I have no bills, no nothing. So it's like I didn't want to get into the space where I was 30 and had all of those, and then life happened and I couldn't get into doing my MBA, and it's something that I really wanted to have. And something that I always thought about is being a Black woman. I have two different minority strides hanging on my back. I wanted to make sure I was the most attractive candidate at all times. I wanted to make sure that I was bringing my best self at all times, and I was able to be able to put my foot through the front door. So that was one. I knew that it was a very competitive market. In the financial field, there is not a lot of women, not a lot of Black women at that too. So I think that was another thing that I thought about. And I had a discussion with my dad, and I do recommend at this stage, if you don't have a mentor, get one, get somebody that you can bounce ideas off of, because you probably haven't seen all that they have. And it's a good chance for them to leverage their experience and give you a chance, because there's this thing that says you can't make all the mistakes in the world. So sometimes you have to learn from someone else. So I had a discussion with my dad, and I told him that I was thinking about going out and working or getting my MBA, and he basically described and said, I will be there to kind of have your back throughout anything if you just go and get everything you need. So I did have really great immigrant parents, as Cassandra said, who was very educational focused, where they're like, get everything you need before you go out into the world. So I had that, fortunately, and I think I was also thinking about the instance my dad offered to pay for it if I went now. So why wouldn't I just go and get everything? So I think with this, it was mainly just wanting to put my best foot forward, wanted to be the most attractive candidate in a world where sometimes I might be overlooked. That was one. And two, a lot of times is so many people have bachelor degrees now, where it's like, how do you differentiate yourself? And networking is a great way to do that, of course, but then it's like, what happens when you don't have anyone in your pool who can help with a certain area that you're going into? So it's always a great resource to have. I do recommend getting the CFA at this point if you're looking to go on that side, or doing the series exams. Those are things that will, differentiate you. And I think when I interviewed for a lot of companies, a lot of them did choose me because they thought I was more qualified than probably, other candidates. So I think that was one of the main reasons that I did it. I mean, the financial stability was great too, but I also knew, I think the main thing was, people kept saying, if you don't know exactly what you want to do, don't go into your MBA, get experience. But I knew what I wanted to do. I knew that finance was the field that I was going to work in. I knew that I was going to be doing something in it. So that wasn't like a stride that I had to worry about. I think that people who are not sure on what field they want to go in, you definitely should get some experience and then decide if that's what you wanted to do. But I already knew that I definitely wanted to do finance. I didn't have a career or a job title in mind, but I knew I wanted to go into investment. I knew I didn't want to do like investment banking. So I already had an idea of what I wanted in that sense. So I knew I wasn't wasting my time. So I think those were the main reasons why I moved forward with it. And like I said, this is going to be a very honest and transparent answer. I think it has to really be what you're looking for. And so many people have that like guideline to say, like, if you don't have 10 years of experience, I think you should wait to do an MBA. Do what is best for you. And if you feel like an MBA at this point is gonna be best for you and you're gonna learn more than what you have currently, then go for it. So, and if you, yeah, I think if you have any questions on moving forward with an MBA right out of college and then going into a job, I'm happy to answer those and happy to connect with you after as well.
Thank you, Shanice. Brittany, what experiences working for various law firms influenced you to pursue your degree?
So for reference, before law school, my very first job graduating from Oneonta, I worked at an immigration big corporate firm, and then I left that firm and joined a personal injury firm doing 9/11 claims, and I did that for 2.5 years. And as a paralegal on both at both firms. So obviously, like you a lot of research, a lot of writing. That's a lot of technical skills, but I think the biggest thing that I knew that I wanted to go to law school, I just wanted to take some time off. And what I noticed is, I mean, obviously everyone at the firms were very sweet, very accommodating, very supportive. But dealing with outside people, so I'm an immigration law firm, we had to talk a lot with USCIS. And the first thing they would ask me is, are you a bar attorney? What's your bar number? And then at my other firm, I'd call the courthouse and they'll ask me, are you an attorney? If not, I can't talk to you. And sometimes my attorneys would have me pretend to be a lawyer. It was so unethical, but it was stuff like that where I'm like, I'm just as paralegals do a lot of work and they sometimes know the case, know the clients way better than the actual lawyers themselves. And for me, I'm working day and night, working hard to get this client work and get our settlement. And then I have someone looking down and like, oh, you're not even a lawyer. Like, what are you, and that I guess hurt my ego. So I was like, you know what, I need to stop taking years off and finally go and go to law school. And it's crazy now that I'm here in law school, a lot of the things that I've learned at my personal injury firm, we did a lot of family law stuff, a lot of wills and trusts, estate work. And I took those classes now in law school and I'm literally learning what I did a few years ago. So stuff like that. And it's all full circle. But ultimately my main goal, coming to law school, I thought I'd save the world. I still want to, but eventually, my main goal is I really love helping people and helping clients, especially those who may not have the resources and knowledge that I might have. And it always made me feel really, really happy once we skip all the hurdles, skip all like the pettiness with the courts and or the USCIS and finally got the goal that we wanted, the outcome we wanted for our clients. And that's always what I always wanted. So now I'm here in law school doing it. So yeah.
Thank you for that great answer, Brittany. Now I'd like to start the Q&A session. So just to kind of reiterate how this will work, you can either raise your hands and we'll call you to answer your question. Or if you prefer, there's an index card on each of your tables. You can write your question down and hand it to Dr. Carroll there. And for each question you ask, we'll give you a raffle ticket. And at the end, we're raffling on a Starbucks gift card. So if you want to go get a drink, and start to ask a question. And also, if we just borrow 2 minutes of your time as well, at some point, just to Q&A codes to give us kind of feedback on how we can improve the program and move forward from there. So, are there any questions from the audience so far? Yes.
This is a question for Brittany. Tell us about your experience with the VITA program.
Yeah, so I remember when I first joined it, I think it was 2017 or 2018. And I forget the professor's name, but he used to do like Microsoft, the short courses, Microsoft Word, Excel. I forget his name. Sorry. Anyways, I did it because again, like it was for me sort of similar to like pro bono work, helping people like file their taxes. And we did the certification. I remember doing it over like winter break, like taking the tests to do like get certified for advanced certificate and then going to like I believe Catholic Charities at Oneonta. And then I ended up continue doing that once I graduated from Oneonta. For 2 years, I worked at the food bank for New York City up in Harlem, where I would go after work and help people with like either do the intake forms or like file their taxes for them. And again, it was just a really cool experience. I wish I do it now. I just don't have time, but maybe once after law school or something, I could do it as part of like pro bono credit or something like that. But yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. I think I encourage everyone to do it, some sort of volunteering. I think that looks great to do, not just for your resume, just for people skills, talking to different people, doing something technical as filing taxes. It can get really tricky sometimes, but luckily you have someone else reviewing your work and then you can see like what you can do. And I file my own taxes because I don't think I need someone to do my taxes for me. But yeah, that was a cool experience.
Any other questions in the audience? Yes?
This question's for Cassandra. What would you say are some of the top skills that you need to be successful in like the legal field or the legal profession?
I'm gonna bring the phone to my face again, so hopefully you guys can hear me. Sorry if you're just seeing my forehead. I think in the legal profession, it also depends on practice area. The legal field, it's a very wide-ranging term. If you're working in an immigration law firm or anything really client-facing, I think you really need to hone in on your personal skills, your communication skills, and just your ability to really get down to the nitty-gritty and the facts with the client. I think that's one of the most important things. If you're doing anything that's client facing or in the litigation realm, I used to work in the litigation realm. I used to do employment law, and that was all client facing. I was doing client intakes day to day. And one of the things that you're not really gonna see in law school is that aspect of things. Being with someone, like I remember being in a room for 3 hours with a woman that just would not stop crying. I couldn't get the story. I couldn't understand what she was saying even. And so working around these, and again, like I said, it's going to be based on your I'm sure someone working in the criminal division of the DA's office is going to have a very different response than I can give you. I know in my day-to-day, working in the transactional space and working in-house, attention to detail is probably the number one thing that you can really focus on day to day. Being able to work cross-functionally with other business units. I'm legal. I can speak very easily with other attorneys. I feel comfortable doing that, but I will also have to go to the operations team. I'll have to go to the credit analyst. I'll have to go to the traders. And I'm going to have to speak using terms that they understand and not using legal jargon. And it's a constant back and forth. So really being able to communicate cross-functionally, working on team dynamics, and attention to detail when reviewing documents and handling sensitive information. So I hope that answered your question. I can expand if needed.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. Yes, over there.
This question is for anyone, but how do you maintain authenticity and embrace your identity while navigating a professional space that can be mostly male or white dominated?
I can take this one. So I find this very, excuse me if I take pauses while answering this, because I don't think it's an easy question to answer, but I do find it very relevant. First, I'd like to say, I have never worked a full-time job that has had someone that looked like me. Yeah, that's correct. I have never worked a full-time job that has had someone that looked anything like me. A couple of weeks ago, I actually attended a seminar with Dr. Condoleezza Rice, who was the Secretary of State for President Bush. And I believe she also worked for his father during his presidency. And I think I'm bringing that up because it's something that stuck with me in terms of a generational lag in how to process and respond to this question and just views in general. I think her response to getting a very similar question was, you have to work twice as hard. And you have to make sure that you work twice as hard so that there is no doubt about you having the credibility to be in that room. And there were a lot of things that I have to say that I agreed with in terms of what she was talking about, but that was not a point that I agreed with at all. And I did a lot of thinking on it, and I think it is a generational thing. I believe in boundaries when it comes to work. I believe that what you do isn't your identity. And I think that it's really important to separate those two things. I do believe that you have to work hard, especially in spaces where there's no one that looks like you. And it's hard to see it being done by, it's hard to do something that you can't see others that look like you are from the same culture as you doing. But at the same time, you also have to be able to embrace other people as mentors that don't necessarily look like you and that don't necessarily come from the same background as you. And I think that's really an important factor. And something that I struggle with in terms of this is just a simple fact, whether it's right or wrong, it's just up for debate. You guys can discuss that amongst yourselves. I think as a minority, no one will ever have to adapt to you, but you will always have to be adapting to those spaces that you're working in and to corporate America and to that culture. It will always be you having to adapt and not the other way around. And one thing I think that is really important in spaces where it's just there in those types of spaces, it's just finding people who, especially because you guys are so young, and I'm not going to take myself out of that category because while I still can, I'll say I am young. Find people who are able to relay information to you effectively that you're able to just hold a conversation with, and not small talk. I mean, really hold a conversation with and make those connections at work and make a relationship out of it. Because that's just the reality of things. And if everyone said to themselves that I can't do something because there's no one like me that's done it, there would never be a first anything. Sorry if I derailed with that question, but I hope I answered it.
Great, thank you so much. Are there any further questions from the audience? Yes.
This will go for anybody. Have you ever been rejected before from a job position, or is there anything that you could do differently for the next time?
I'm sorry, can somebody repeat the question for me? I'm not able to effectively hear everything.
Yeah, no, of course. The question was, have you ever been rejected from a job or position before, and was there anything which you did the next time?
So the question is, have you ever been rejected from a job before, and what you would do differently the next time? Just to confirm. Yes. Okay, yeah. So when you're doing job searching, you're gonna get plenty of that. Be prepared for that. I can't tell you the amount of tears that I've cried throughout this entire process. It took me probably a month before I even got like my first job offer. So rejection is a part of the process. Get used to it. Just understand that it doesn't mean that you aren't great for the job. It just means that they're looking for a certain thing. And when you're looking for 1,000 different candidates, they only have to pick one or two. So in that space, to say when I got rejected to a couple jobs, I think one thing I was doing was asking at the end of the interviews, like, is there anything particular that you're looking for? Is there something in me that you're looking for? Is there something that you didn't receive here? And I think one thing I said before, that asking the tough questions, a lot of people don't want to hear like, okay, you didn't do this great, but that's the only way that you're going to get better. So I think one, make sure that you're expanding and seeing what you didn't do great the first time. And sometimes you do know. So once I had like interviews and I felt like I was too nervous and I didn't expand on the information that I wanted to, or I felt like my personality wasn't coming through, those are things that I feel like I had to take a second and work at. So that's one. Two, I think sometimes you just have to kind of understand that when you're dealing with bigger companies, you're going to have so many different applicants. Talk to your friends, see what they think works best for them. Talk to your mentor, see what works best on their end as well. And you think about the instance of culture. So a lot of times we think about rejection to say, oh, we were rejected, but sometimes the company feels like you don't fit into the culture that they're looking for. That they're doing you a favor when they're doing that. So this is also just to interject on that point to say, ask about culture and see if it does fit into what you're looking for. So I've been to companies before where I asked, like, is there any minority programs that's going to cater to me on some end? Because if you're in an organization where you don't see a lot of you, sometimes you feel like you can't connect exactly on, you know, some level of conversation that they're having. And some companies felt like they didn't like that I asked that and they rejected me. And okay, that's fine. That just means that it's not for you, but you're going to find what's for you. And again, like I said, rejection is a part of the process. I haven't talked to anybody so far. Maybe they're out there. I haven't talked to them yet that applied to their first job and got it off the run. Just so expect that you're going to be rejected. If you apply to 100 jobs, expect that you're going to be rejected at least 80 times before you actually get to that final stage. And that is completely okay. Cry if you need to, write notes if you need to, and just move forward. It doesn't mean that you're not good enough. It just simply means that they went with somebody else that they felt like was more suited for the job. And that is completely fine.
Thank you so much. And were there any last questions that anybody in the audience wanted to ask? If not, then I will pass the microphone off to David for the next step of the program.
Well, thank you guys. That concludes our Life After Graduation program. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to our sponsors. Grab some food to go. And have a nice day. Raffle.